Have you ever reached the end of the day and wondered why you suddenly stopped caring about your goals? You know what you should do, but instead you scroll, snack, procrastinate, or make choices you promised yourself you wouldn't. It feels like laziness, but it isn't. What's actually happening is something silently controlling your behavior every single day, and most people never realize it until it has already sabotaged their productivity, finances, health, and focus. This hidden force is called decision fatigue, and understanding it may completely change how you structure your life. Decision fatigue is not about intelligence or discipline. It affects everyone equally, from students to CEOs to world leaders. In fact, some of the most powerful people in the world openly design their lives around avoiding it. When figures like Barack Obama, Steve Jobs, and Mark Zuckerberg wore nearly the same outfit every day, it wasn't a fashion statement. It was a psychological strategy. They understood that every decision, no matter how small, drains a limited mental resource. Once that resource is gone, your brain starts taking shortcuts that rarely lead to good outcomes. To understand why this happens, we need to look at how the brain manages energy. Your brain does not have unlimited capacity for self-control. Psychologists refer to this as ego depletion. The idea is simple but powerful. Every act of self-control, resisting temptation, analyzing choices, or weighing options, consumes mental energy. When that energy runs low, your ability to make high-quality decisions collapses. One of the most famous experiments demonstrating this involves something surprisingly simple: food. Participants were placed in a room with freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Some were allowed to eat the cookies. Others were told they could only eat radishes while still smelling the cookies and knowing they were nearby. Afterward, both groups were asked to solve a puzzle that was secretly unsolvable. The people who had to resist temptation gave up much faster, not because they were less capable, but because they had already spent their mental energy resisting the cookies. This experiment revealed something uncomfortable. Willpower is not moral strength. It is fuel, and once you burn through it, your brain starts conserving energy automatically. This becomes dangerous, because decision fatigue does not usually cause people to make reckless decisions. Instead, it causes them to make default decisions. When your brain is tired, it chooses what is easiest, safest, or most familiar. That might mean buying junk food instead of cooking, postponing important work, avoiding difficult conversations, or clicking the first option instead of the best one. Research repeatedly shows that the more options people are given, the worse their decisions become. In studies involving jam and chocolate selections, customers presented with fewer choices were more likely to make a purchase and felt more satisfied afterward. When faced with too many options, people either avoided choosing altogether or regretted their choice later. This explains why modern life feels so exhausting. You are not tired because you work too hard. You are tired because you decide too much. From the moment you wake up, your brain is bombarded with choices. What time to get up? What to wear? What to eat? Which message to reply to first? Which task matters most? Which news to believe? Which notification deserves attention? None of these decisions are large on their own, but together, they drain the same mental battery you need for your most important work. One of the most unsettling demonstrations of decision fatigue came from research on judges making parole decisions. Early in the morning, judges were far more likely to grant parole. As the day went on, favorable rulings dropped dramatically. After lunch, they increased again. The severity of crimes did not change. The evidence did not change. Only the judge's mental energy did. As fatigue increased, judges defaulted to the safest possible option, denying parole. The same pattern appears in business, medicine, and finance. Analysts become less accurate after making many forecasts. Doctors are more likely to choose default treatments late in the day. Tired decision makers rely on heuristics, rules of thumb, and past patterns rather than thoughtful evaluation. The frightening part is that most people experience this every day without realizing it. By the time evening arrives, your brain is no longer capable of long-term thinking. It wants comfort, familiarity, and immediate reward. This is why motivation advice often fails. You don't lack motivation. You lack decision capacity. So the real problem is not how to make better decisions. The problem is how to stop wasting them. The biggest mistake people make is trying to use discipline to fight decision fatigue. They tell themselves to be stronger, to push harder, to focus more. But discipline still consumes energy. Fighting fatigue with willpower is like trying to charge a dying phone by opening more apps. The solution is structural, not motivational. The first transformation happens when you stop asking what decisions you should make better and start asking which decisions you can remove entirely. High performers don't make better choices than everyone else. They make fewer of them. Habits are the most powerful tool against decision fatigue. A habit is not just repeated behavior. It is a decision that has been permanently retired. When something becomes habitual, it no longer consumes mental energy. Brushing your teeth does not drain willpower, because you no longer decide whether to do it. This is why routines matter more than motivation. When your day follows predictable patterns, your brain stops negotiating. You are not deciding whether to go to the gym. You simply go, because that is what happens at that time. You are not debating when to work or rest. The decision was made weeks ago. This is also why morning routines are so powerful. Your decision energy is highest early in the day. Using that energy to structure the rest of your day creates a multiplier. When you decide important things early, you protect yourself later when your mental energy is gone. Another overlooked strategy is automation. Any recurring decision should be automated whenever possible. Bills, reminders, subscriptions, backups, calendars, savings transfers. Each automation removes dozens of micro decisions across the year. Technology should not add choices to your life. It should remove them. Lists are another underestimated weapon. Writing tasks down early in the day frees your mind from constantly reevaluating what to do next. When everything is externalized, your brain stops running background processes. You reduce cognitive load simply by knowing you won't forget. Nutrition also plays a role. Your brain relies heavily on glucose for energy. When blood sugar drops, decision fatigue accelerates. This does not mean eating constantly, but it does mean understanding that extreme hunger makes rational thinking nearly impossible. Many poor decisions blamed on lack of discipline are actually made under depleted physiological conditions. Sleep is equally critical. Sleep deprivation does not just reduce energy, it impairs judgment, increases impulsivity, and weakens self-control. A tired brain is far more likely to chase short-term rewards at the expense of long-term goals. But perhaps the most powerful insight of all is this: decision fatigue compounds. Bad decisions made from fatigue create more decisions later. Skipping the gym leads to guilt, which leads to emotional exhaustion, which leads to comfort eating, which leads to regret, which leads to more depleted energy the next day. One poor decision multiplies into dozens. This is why designing your environment matters more than trusting your willpower. If healthy food is already prepared, no decision is required. If distractions are blocked, focus becomes automatic. If your schedule is clear, your mind stays calm. The goal is not perfection. The goal is friction reduction. Every small improvement that reduces daily decisions protects your most valuable mental resource. When you understand decision fatigue, you stop blaming yourself. You realize that your worst habits are not personality flaws. They are symptoms of overload. The modern world demands thousands of decisions per day, yet our brains evolved for far fewer. Once you see this clearly, life changes. You begin designing days instead of surviving them. You begin protecting mornings instead of wasting them. You begin removing choices instead of endlessly optimizing them. Decision fatigue will never disappear completely, but when you respect it, you regain control over your behavior. You stop relying on motivation and start building systems. You stop reacting and start operating intentionally. The most successful people are not those with the strongest willpower. They are the ones who understand that willpower is fragile and build their lives to preserve it. If you take only one lesson from this video, let it be this: every unnecessary decision steals energy from the decisions that shape your future. Reduce the small choices, and the big ones become clearer. Once you begin living this way, you'll notice something remarkable. Focus improves. Stress decreases. Discipline feels effortless. Not because you became stronger, but because you stopped draining yourself before the day even began. That is the true power of understanding decision fatigue.